Live from SABC studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, welcome to this midweek edition of The Watchdog. My name is Vuyo Mvogo, and on the show tonight...
Will you be ready to assume the responsibilities? Should he resign?
We can't probably jump the gun and say this is going to be the determination.
While parliamentarians from opposite sides of the political spectrum were arguing over whether President Ramaphosa should step down or not, the public protector was writing letters to the president, effectively starting her probe. Her office brings us up to speed.
I will not allow myself to be bullied. I am not going to be frightened by any letter or any other thing that they are trying to do. I'm going to stand firm.
Meet the woman risking it all to take on the most powerful man in South African football. Not only does Ledwaba want to make history by being the first woman to become president of the South African Football Association, to do so, she must defeat her friend and mentor, the man many say is simply unbeatable in his own game, and that's incumbent Danny Jordan. All that and more coming up in tonight's episode of The Watchdog, which starts right now. There's no need for President Cyril Ramaphosa to step down right now. That's according to his deputy, David Mabuza. The deputy president was answering questions in Parliament where MPs used the opportunity to put questions to him about his boss. Last week, former spy boss Arthur Fraser opened a case against the president, accusing him of, among other charges, defeating the ends of justice. The accusations relate to an alleged theft of $4 million from Ramaphosa's farm in Limpopo.
Deputy President David Mabuza was responding to questions in the National Assembly. The questions were submitted before the saga around the theft at President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm made headlines. But opposition parties used this opportunity to get answers from Mabuza.
Would you agree that the admission by the president that millions of dollars on his private property that were stolen and not reported to the criminal justice system cast doubt on his ability to uphold the rule of law, which is his responsibility and yours, which is central to your role, and his ability to manage the cabinet?
Taking into account with the latest development of the difficult criminal clouds hanging over the president now, relating to allegations of money laundering, will you be ready to assume the responsibilities? Should he resign, as provided for in the Constitution, in relation to this criminal cloud hanging over the president's head?
Mabuza said should law enforcement agencies decide to pursue the matter, it will be done at the proper time.
I don't think we've reached any point that seeks to say the president must step down. All I know is that a case has been opened and we've allowed the different institutions of our country to investigate and make a determination. And beyond that, probably a decision will be taken after a determination has been made, of which we can't probably jump the gun and say this is going to be the determination.
According to former State Security Agency Director General Arthur Fraser, the incident was never reported. Some of the accusations relate to money laundering. The president, pleading innocence, said the money stolen was from the sale of game. He has vowed to approach the ANC Integrity Commission. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Public Protector Buswem Kwebane, meanwhile, has wasted no time responding to an MP's request for a probe. In fact, her investigation has already commenced, and she has already written letters to the president and others for information. To tell us more about this development, we are joined on the line by the Public Protector's spokesperson, Opa Sakhale. Good evening, Opa. Thanks very much for your time.
Good evening, Mr. Mvoko. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Now, the request for a probe apparently came from the African Transformation Movement President and MP Vuyo Zungula. What does he want the public protector to probe exactly?
Mr. Zungula alleges a number of breaches of the Executive Code of Ethics on the part of the President. First, he alleges that the President may have undertaken other paid work outside of his remuneration, which he gets as a member of the Executive, and that is outlawed by the Executive Code of Ethics. In addition to that, he alleges that the President may have exposed himself to a risk of a conflict between his official duties and his private affairs. Further, he alleges that in getting involved in all that has been alleged, the President may have acted in a manner that is inconsistent with the office that he occupies. Now, all of those are standards that are found in the Executive Code of Ethics, and members of the Executive are called upon to uphold those standards at all material times. And so the Public Protector's investigation will focus on all of those allegations to establish if there's any merit to substantiate all of those allegations, and to that extent, as you rightfully say, the Public Protector has commenced that particular investigation with a number of letters written to the President, among other people, to respond to the claims that have been leveled against him, but also to request information that can be of assistance in this investigation.
Mm-hmm. So she has satisfied herself that the investigation she has commenced is indeed within the powers under the Executive Members Ethics Act.
Yes, that is correct. The Act, first and foremost, says that on receipt of a complaint from a member of the Executive or a member of Parliament, the Public Protector must investigate. So there is an obligation for her to investigate. And as I said, she will then focus on the specific allegations outlined in that particular complaint, where Mr. Zungula points to specific things that he alleges the President has done.
Mm-hmm. Any idea at this stage as to who she intends approaching, or from the letters that she has already written, are you able to share with us as to who else she has written to or asked information from?
Up to so far, letters have been written to 4 respondents, including the President. The others are Parliament, the Secretary of Parliament, and there's a letter that has went to the police, and there's a letter that has went to the Deeds Office. But more letters will be written in the coming days as the investigation team knuckles down to the work that they have cut out in respect of this particular investigation.
No letter so far to Mr. Arthur Fraser?
Not today. Today, all the letters that were dispatched went to those people or those institutions that I've just referred to. But as I said, they will be approaching more people to gather more information.
Mm-hmm. Any receipt, or confirmation of receipt on the part of the President, at least?
Well, if there is any, I would not be aware. That's something that we can follow up on later on. But all that I can confirm is that the letter was dispatched today.
Mm-hmm. Any timelines as to the period within which the Public Protector should or must have completed this particular investigation?
Again, in respect of the timelines, we take our cue from the Executive Members Ethics Act, in terms of which an investigation of this nature must be concluded within 30 days from the date of receipt of the complaint. Now, the complaint was received last Friday, but I must make mention of the fact that although there is that 30-day deadline, it's not often that we meet that deadline because of a number of factors, ranging from the complexity of the investigations of this nature, as well as requests that we often get from respondents, especially those who are subjects of investigation, to say we need more time to gather all information so that we can be able to respond comprehensively. And the public protector often grants those requests because the last thing she wants is for people to say she was unfair in conducting the investigation. So the first prize is to go for the 30 days, but if it doesn't work out, the Act anticipates that, and there is a provision that says that when the public protector becomes aware that she won't be able to meet that deadline, she should write to the president or whoever to say to them, I won't be able to meet the deadline, and then the report will be submitted to you as soon as we have wrapped up the investigation.
And that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. Thank you so much for your time, sir. And that is Mphosa Kgalwe, who is, of course, the spokesperson for the Office of the Public Protector. After the break, we sit down with a woman who wants to make history against odds and become the first woman to become the boss of South African football. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Watchdog. Now, by her own admission, the odds are stacked against her, but she is trudging on. Today, after the South African Football Association finally declared that she would now be eligible to contest the position of association president and can talk freely about her candidature, Ledwaba called a media briefing where she spoke about why she decided to make the move in the first place and what she's been subjected to from the time she declared her availability. Sfiso Ramara attended that briefing.
Ledwaba aims to become the first woman to serve as president of SAFA, but she says the playing field is not level. After being denied an opportunity to raise her objections with SAFA, Ledwaba says she had no other option but to approach the South African courts. SAFA has already filed a notice for an intention to oppose. Ledwaba is viewed as incumbent, Danny Jordan's main rival, and was cleared to contest the presidential elections, but she is not eligible to serve in the next SAFA National Executive Committee.
As a candidate, I have serious concerns. I have serious concerns of violation of our own statutes. I have serious concern of this particular constitution that has been overruled and not in line with the statutes. And I have done my part in-house. I have lodged my dispute with the association. I have lodged my dispute and I've stated what my disputes are. And I have been denied an opportunity to come and address those disputes internally.
Meanwhile, Ledwaba says the 52 SAFA regions who don't get enough financial support from SAFA are ruled by fear and intimidation. According to her, the 40 SAFA NEC members each received a sum of 100,000 rand as ex gratia payment. The payments were made despite SAFA reporting a profit of a mere 1 million rand in the past financial year.
It's money for football. It's not money for individuals. I said to you, if you are lucky as a region, you will get your 35,000 rand. That 4 million rand, remember we are 40, we are going to be 47. You can calculate how much money is going to go to individuals, the pocket of politicians. That 4 million rand could have paid 52 regions for 2 months.
Ledwaba, who has served as SAFA vice president for the past 4 years, says if elected as president, she will redirect funds to grassroots level for proper football development. She will also call on former footballers to get involved and plow back.
I am not going to be frightened by any letter or any other thing that they are trying to do. I'm going to stand firm.
Football legends are also demanding drastic change in football administration in the country.
This is the only country whereby we host the World Cup. After hosting World Cup, everything just went down. If you look at the countries that they host the World Cup, after hosting the World Cup, everything is bright. We are having a big problems whereby we need a change.
I am here saying that I support Ms. Ledwaba in her goal and her ambition to change football in South Africa, which we know is needed. We know it's needed for all the reasons: grassroots, for the national team, for the women's and the men's game, for development in the country, for school sports, for everything that pertains to South African football.
We should take the blame as well that we haven't been voicing our concerns. We haven't been fighting for ourselves. The only time people look at us that we can make a contribution to football is as coaches. We can't all be coaches.
Ledwaba says she's received all the necessary support from within SAFA structures and from external stakeholders to take over as SAFA president. Sfeso Ramara, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, Maria, as she is fondly known, is here in studio with me to answer, in fact, some of the questions that you may have. You can tweet us. The Twitter handles are on your screen right now as we speak. Maria, good evening. Thanks very much for your time.
Good evening.
Well. Let's start with this one and get it out of the way. You've written to FIFA to raise a whole number of concerns around, how the South African Football Association is being run, and in your view, how rules and statutes are being flouted. The possibility, have you thought of the possibility of that affecting the process leading up to the elections, the SAFA elections, in a few weeks' time?
Well, of course, this letter is directed to FIFA based on the proceedings that have happened ever since that Congress of the 26th. I think I've raised a number of issues that happened from the date when that election was called, the manner in which it was conducted. It was postponed on the 10th when it was supposed to be on the 11th. And in terms of the statutes, when you postpone a Congress, you reconvene it in 14 days. It was reconvened in 30 days. And when you postpone a Congress, the agenda that was on the postponed Congress should be the agenda in the reconvening, which in fact we have got a circular that says the reconvened Congress, although it was after 30 days, but the agenda will stand.
Change.
But we still receive documents on the 8th of March. We could only deal with the documents that were presented before the 10th, before the 11th of December, 2021.
So the procedural constitutional statute
Yes.
issues. But in addition to that, there were things that happened to you where you were denied your own rights in certain instances. Is that correct? Is that part
Yeah,
of it?
it is correct because, for example, the date of the election, by the time we went to this Congress, there was no indication of a date of election. And when I received the agenda for the NEC meeting of the 24th, because we deal with the agenda of the Congress in the NEC, I received it and I sent a letter to the CEO to say, I see there is no indication of the date of the election. Can we put the date of the election on the agenda? And there was the amount of 20,000 rand that was paid to the NEC and unauthorized funds that was paid on the 23rd of December, when the offices of SAFA was closed from the 15th of December to the 15th of January. Then I said, can we put the 20,000 rand on the agenda so that I must be able to ask who authorized that money? And I was responded to that this is an extraordinary meeting of the NEC. Only the agenda that is presented will be the agenda of the day. So according to me, there was no agenda for the date of election. Even when it was brought in the Congress, it was not on the agenda. So, and the statutes are very clear once again. If the item is not on the agenda, it cannot be discussed. It's not a matter of voting, it's not a matter of majority. It is in the statute. It says you cannot discuss any item that is not placed on the agenda. Now I see a letter that I have written to the CEO about requesting those two items sent to the media by SAFA, but they fail to send their response to my letter. So they are portraying that she has requested for this date of the election, but they forget that they have responded to me to say that matter cannot be put. So I'm talking about simple things that are there in the statutes that needs to be followed, that need to be adhered to. And I just feel like we are in an organization that create constitution, create policies, and we don't abide by them.
It flouts its own and FIFA's constitution. So you are awaiting a response from FIFA on the letter that you've written to them.
And I'm very confident that FIFA will respond to my letter.
Now, you've also now taken the organization to court.
Yes.
And this is what people have been talking about over the past couple of days, especially, that FIFA takes a dim view of people who take, itself and affiliate organizations to outside courts, outside of its own structures, that is.
That's the statutes that has been amended on the 26th that says you must go to case. The statutes of 2018, I'm basing my reasoning, my everything on the statutes of 2018. I do not recognize the statutes that was approved in an unconstitutional sitting. I'm saying, I'm looking at 2018, it says you need, if you have exhausted all internal avenue and you go to an arbitration and you are not satisfied with the decision of the, you can review that in a court of law. In the preamble of the 2026 statutes that is amended, it says we shall abide by the regulation and rules of the South African government. So then there's a contradiction. And Vuyo, let me say, just a few months ago, PSL has been in court in a number of cases. I have not seen SAFA writing a letter to PSL to say you can't go to court. SAFA itself, they have written, they are taking people to court. As we speak now, there are several people that have received summons from SAFA saying you have been speaking over the Facebook. You have been raising your voice, no freedom of speech. You have been raising your issues on the Facebook and they are taking people. So if SAFA can take people to court and they tell RIA that you can't take us to court, but they can take individuals that are speaking on Facebook and use football money to take those people to court, because they're going to use a football money to pay for the lawyers. At least I'm not using football money, I'm using my money. Let the court of law decide whether we have an organization that abuse their power or not, or whether we have an organization that does not adhere to their own constitution. And I don't think...
What is your answer, though, to both of those questions? Do you have an organization where people abuse power? Do you have an organization where people don't adhere to their own constitution?
Of course, it's a number of... Let me give you an example. When the governing body gave the approved candidate list, the statutes are very clear. The statutes that they are talking about, that they choose which statutes they want to use. Article 25.15 says, as soon as the CEO receives the approved list of candidates, he shall send that to the members, to all members. Did that happen? No. I got calls from the media. Yeah, you are in now as a... Where did you get that? No, we had a press conference. You can only have a press conference after you have sent the list to the member. That's what the Constitution says. It doesn't say any other thing. So I'm showing you just what happened yesterday when we got the results. Now I hear that I did not make it to the NEC. I'm writing an appeal to that governing body that anybody must tell me. I hear they announced there in the press conference that I come from Capricorn. Those governing bodies, I don't know if they know me, that they can give me a region. But the statutes again says the president and the vice president and the CEO shall not belong to any region. So it means whoever is there who belongs to a region, it was between the 13 days after the Congress when they called for the nomination. I can't belong to a region.
Have you been able to establish who sort of chops and change these statutes willy-nilly, as you're suggesting?
I don't know. I can't point a finger because I've not been participating. I've not been involved in any of the events of SAFA. I think you are aware, a lot of people haven't seen me from 2020. I have not been involved, but what I know is that there are articles in that constitution that have been fraudulently included in the constitution that were not there in that unconstitutional Congress of the 26th. They were not there. And then there are 4 articles that were there on the 25th, but they are removed from the... So the question is, who removed them? Who included these other statutes that was not there on the 25th? So how can we, anyone, even FIFA, how can they say that constitution is legitimate?
Well, let's start with what you've just mentioned. Remind our viewers of why you are not participating in SAFA matters over the past 2 years.
On the 20th of June, I was removed unconstitutionally again. The NEC has got no authority whatsoever in terms of the statutes to even remove their colleague. Even the manner in which it was done, you know, they do it in front of you. You are there. You are removed. They look at you in the eyes and remove you. And they know they are doing it constitutionally, but they depend on the majority. We are in the majority, we can remove it.
Well, let's clarify 2 things. One, if a member transgresses, if you've done some wrongdoing, obviously there would have to be a process and so on and so forth. Who then has the power to remove you if need be, or suspend you, or subject you to a process? Who has that power?
If an NEC member, your colleague in the NEC, has done something wrong, misconducted, you refer that colleague to a DC. There are judicial body in SAFA, and the statutes again, they are saying the NEC cannot get involved in judicial bodies because we appoint this judicial body to deal with issues of misconduct.
not the NEC itself.
No, you can't.
So
They
what
have
were
no
you
authority.
accused of, and were you subjected to a DC?
Yes, I was subjected to, I'm actually before a DC. The resolution in the NEC, they took a resolution. I was there when they took that resolution. Or she has, there are issues. I have met with an expelled person. I have met with an external stakeholders and pretended as if I'm representing SAFA, and all lot of articles that are there, posters, and I've created a website using the SAFA. That's what. And they took this they on their own, saying no, we don't want to be accused of. It's August month. We don't want to be accused by women. Let's just take this matter to the DC. It's a resolution of the NEC, but they don't take me to a DC. They appoint an independent chairperson, one person, because that independent chairperson does not make a ruling. He recommends me back to the NEC, and I'm 100% sure that the intention is to expel me. The intention is that that independent person will give them the ruling, and they will make that ruling themselves at the NEC.
So that process is still ongoing?
It's still ongoing.
Okay. Now, back to an issue that you've just said, that you stood accused of meeting with people,
expelled person,
expelled persons, and from what you said this morning at the briefing,
yes,
these were people who actually approached you, and this is where your trouble started.
Yes.
These are people who approached you,
yes,
asking you to stand for election for the position of SAFA president.
In fact, let me make it very clear so that it is very clear from whoever is listening now. It was after I've written a letter to the president, I have requested the president to meet with him, that I have been approached. I didn't get that.
This is Danny Jordan.
Yes. And then I said, I have not considered that. What I will do, I want to consult with the leaders of the country, women, churches. That's what I did. That when I have done that, I will go back to him again. And indeed I did that. I went back and I wanted to speak to him. I did not get that opportunity. Then I wrote a letter and I said, President, I have dealt with my consultation. I now believe that I should stand after the consultation. And then a week after that, I get a letter from the lawyer that misconduct, charges of misconduct, that's when I received it. After I have written a letter to him to say, I will now stand for the president of South African Football Association.
So he was the first person you contacted when some people asked you,
yes,
to stand for the position of SAFA president.
In
and he
fact,
snubbed you.
Yes.
You then went ahead and consulted other people, told them,
yes,
that you would consult other people,
yes,
saying that is not giving you the opportunity.
In fact, it was not even in consultation. I had a meeting with those people because I wanted to meet them. I wanted to hear why they believe that I should stand for, because my decision was that I'm retiring. I have done my part in football. And I told them in that meeting that I do not want my president to think I'm working behind his back. I am going to call him, and I call him the very same day that I would want to meet with you, but I didn't tell him what. Then when he did not meet with me, I then wrote him a letter to say, the reason why I wanted to meet with you was because I've been approached, and I wanted to share with you and hear your opinion.
So instead of getting an audience, you got trumped up charges. The rest, as they say, is history. But from the organization you've just described, which flouts its own constitution, where rules and regulations change willy-nilly, why then would you be interested in subjecting yourself to that kind of organization, especially if you had made up your mind at some point that you would retire?
It's a very good question, Vuyo. There are a number of times where I wanted to resign. And there's the time where after the meeting, I went to my president and I said to him, President, do you still think I'm your vice president? And he said, of course you are my vice president. God, how? How am I your vice president? I'm not supposed to be participating in let's have a meeting. We never had that meeting. So, and Vuyo, my children asked me that question, why do you think you should be in that organization? Nobody recognizes you, the value that you have brought into. In fact, your money, our money as your children has been spent in football. You have never received any money from reward from this football. It took from you. Why do you want to associate? And my answer was very simple to my children. I said to them, it is not for me. It is not my personal wish. I'm looking at the next generation. There are young girls and boys out there that are looking up to us and say, we are looking up to that woman. If I give up, if I resign, I'm actually saying to them, there is no hope. So I'm still standing under the very difficult circumstances amongst men, about 30 men. And I'm saying the next generation will never judge me as a woman who gave up at some point. I am not going to give up. I am continuing to fight for the next generation. They must never find themselves in the situation where I am currently.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
So you will only be able to make the difference or changes you're promising to make if you get that job.
Yes.
And people say the odds are just against you. It's not possible.
That's what they think. When you instill fear in people, that's the answer you will get all the time. Because men are fearful. They are afraid even to raise their voices. They are afraid. There is a lot of intimidation. The regional congresses are conducted by the candidates at national level. The NEC who are candidates, they go around and conduct regional election. What does that tell you?
But who is instilling fear? I thought this is a democratic organization where everyone has a say.
Or maybe we have democracy in other organizations, but I don't think there's any democracy in our organization. No. If people can't speak on Facebook about this woman, she's messing up at SAFA, and then I can take them to court. Where's democracy there? Where's freedom of speech? You can't meet with an expelled person. There's no rule. There's no article in the statutes that say an expelled person is my brother, it's my cousin, it's my neighbor. You can never, South Africa can never have a rule that says you can't meet with an expelled person. It says, the article, because they don't read the documents, the constitution. The article says you cannot have a sporting relationship with a region that has been expelled. Meaning, if a region has been expelled, you can't go and play football. But they translate that to an expelled person. And I've stated it many times in the NEC that show me in the statutes where a statute say you cannot meet, because it will be very unconstitutional, undemocratic actually. to have a status like that.
You're talking about 30 or so men, you say.
We are 36.
You are up against.
Yes.
Right. The impression people have out there from what's been written, from what people has been saying, is that there's one man who actually runs SAFA. All those other people next to him or around him are people he has a very tight grip on. So you can't even talk about, those people. Is it true, though, in your experience, is Danny Jordan running SAFA with an iron fist?
He does. It is true.
And there's no one to stop him?
I tried. I engage with my president not in the NEC. I go to on his office one-on-one, and I show him all these things that are happening in the organization that are not in line at all.
And what has been his responses?
He agrees with me 99% of the time that and
then goes on to do the opposite.
No, and he would say maybe we should have a presidential meetings where we can discuss this matter, because I say, if something, I'm a vice president, I must support my president. So, but I can't go to an NEC and I'm confronted with something that I don't agree upon. I feel it would be incorrect for me to stand up and it's something that he's bringing to the NEC. I go to the office, I say, but President, I think the decisions that we are taking in that NEC, it's not correct. Do you think that that majority that is taking the decision is the correct? And he agrees with me.
But is he good at what he does, or does he think he is good at what he does?
I think that question can be answered by him. I don't know.
No, I'm asking because, in my life, I've come across people who are good at what they do.
I don't know.
Sometimes, but have some of the most detestable personalities, or personalities that clash with the kind of culture, that you would want to build in an organization.
I just believe in institution. They are leaders of institution that only believe in themselves. They don't believe in anybody else.
So he doesn't believe in anyone else?
I don't think he does. I don't think he believes in any. That is why there's no succession plan. Where are all the vice presidents that served under him? They're all gone. And because they have raised their voices, they are gone. And what do they call them? I'm sure it's a name that is known to the public. No, this disgruntled people. I'm sure I'm one of them. But I've never been disgruntled. I raise my issues in the NEC and I do it, Vuyo, in writing. I've got everything in writing. I don't go and raise verbally. I'll go there and I write, and I expect to some I receive the response, some I don't receive the response, but I do every time when I see something that I don't agree with. I do write.
There's quite a number of people, I'm told, who have sent through tweets. Lipara Muzolo says, Maria Ledwaba, what are your top priorities should you get the SAFA president seat?
First priority is the relationship that we must have with municipalities, the relationship that we must have with the PSL, the relationship that we must have with our government, the relationship that we must have with our stakeholders. For me, all regions are where the municipalities are. If we say Mopani, there's Mopani municipality. When we say Waterberg, there's Waterberg. So who in football, if you need the fields, they are there at the municipality. It can't be left to the region. So it must be the leadership that goes around the municipality and say, you have MIG funds. Where do you place that? Can we have facilities for our clubs so that they can be able to, grassroots, all developing country. You can go to Germany, you can go to Brazil. Their spending is on grassroots level, nothing else. Our legends, they are closer to my heart.
Well, they were there, some of them this morning, and singing your praises. Enzop says, kindly ask Ledwaba her honest view as to why soccer has deteriorated since 1996 and why Danny Jordan is still at SAFA leadership under these circumstances.
There are many, many challenges at the organization. I think maybe we concentrate on Bafana. Maybe the reason that we have appointed so many coaches and fired so many coaches in the last 26 years, it's a demonstration that there is something that this organization is not doing well. You cannot have an organization that have no consequences. When you say to South African, this is our vision, this is what we're going to do, and you fail, what do you do?
Okay. Xavier says, in Ria we trust. Let's see, I mean, that's more of a comment. Let's see if we can get another one. Please tell her she has my support. She's going to lead SAFA, says Machovoni. Okay, we did read this one earlier. Now, you said earlier, I mean, you spoke about what happened in December when every member of the NEC got 20,000 rands. I think subsequent to that, got
unauthorized money.
Unauthorized money. You know? Now, from speculation has been that people were paid those monies because it was close to election time. It was to essentially buy their votes, so that they know exactly where their bread is buttered. Is that a view you share?
I don't think so. I think it was for Christmas. I agree it was on the 23rd. I think it was Christmas money. But because it was not authorized, I wrote a letter to the CEO to say, can you give me the account number of SAFA because I want to send back the money. I cannot accept money that is unauthorized. And indeed, I got the account number and I sent the money back.
Given your challenges, I mean, your organization has, I mean, you made 1 million rands in what? In a year. For an organization that big, you know, and given everything that you have to do, surely that's a dismal performance.
It is. That is why I say, Voyo, if you are an organization that do not recognize that you have not achieved, you have not achieved your Vision 2022, how are you going to be the one that can? Because we don't see any failure. If you don't see any failure in what you have done in the past 8 years, we do not see any failure. You cannot. Go to Egypt. When Egypt was beaten by South Africa, the whole executive resigned. They were not asked to resign. They resigned because they believed they failed the country.
But do you honestly believe that you are going to win? Or is yours a stance that you've taken to say, I am just putting myself and my views out there. If I lose, I lose.
In any election, there must be a winner and a loser if you are not unopposed. But I am very confident. I'm very confident that the regional president of SAFA, they are sick and tired of the manner in which they are treated on a daily basis.
People have said, remember, I mean, previously people have said so before, and it just never happened.
I didn't get the question.
I'm saying people have said before that people are sick and tired, you know, of Danny Jordan. People want change, and it just never happens. What's going to change this time around?
No, let's go to the ballot. But we must go to the ballot on the date that was approved by the Congress, not on the date that we were given by somebody else of the 25th. The date of the election in that unconstitutional Congress was the end of August.
Well,
we must allow the decision of that Congress for August. Let's go there. Let's go to the election. You know, the voting it's a secret ballot. Let's go there. Let's go to the secret ballot. If the leadership that is there now, or as a candidate believes he has got all the votes, why all this worry? Why all this writing letters to the media? Why all this thing? If you are confident, you would not be doing the things that we see doing, because you are confident you are going there to win.
But very quickly, we have run out of time.
Yes.
Are you confident that you've mobilized or you're wanted by the right people? In other words, these are SAFA structures that are eligible to cast their vote. In other words, these are not politicians outside or ex-players, who may be loved by South Africa, but who don't have voting rights at the end of the day.
I've just been unmuted a day ago. I can only say to you, I will do my best in the next 14 days if anybody in his rightful mind think there's any candidate who can fairly go to 52 regions in 14 days, if it's possible. But given the circumstances that we are facing, one has to live with that kind of a situation.
All I can say is best of luck. You are going to be back because we're supposed to talk about the gallery of legends.
Yes.
But the news has overtaken us, so you will be back, you promise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and best of luck. And that was Ledwaba, who, of course, is running for the position of SAFA president. People saying, well, the odds are stacked against her, but we'll see how that happens. That's our show for this evening. To join us again tomorrow night, same time. Good night.